Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast. I'm Steve.
I'm Marty.
I'm Don.
I'm Fish.
And this is the Growing with Fishes podcast. We have both of our co-hosts today, and we're also... Oh, wait, hold on. Got the feedback there. All right, sorry about that. I always forget that starts in the beginning. Anyways, we are joined today by Donald Bailey. He is one of the longtime experts at UVI. He's been there pretty much since the beginning. In fact, I think you were there since the beginning, correct?
I missed the beginning by about 5 years.
Okay, but he's definitely one of the longest running researchers at UVI. For those of you who don't know, they founded the commercial aquaponics model, the generally accepted commercial aquaponics model that's out there, and it is a big honor to have him on the show today. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
So why don't you tell us about how you got started at UVI, and then some of a little bit of history about that, and then kind of how you guys have come to be what you guys are today.
Okay. Well, it did start in 1979 when Jim Mercosi came to the Agriculture Experiment Station at UVI, and I came here in 1986. So the problems that Virgin Islands farmers have are lack of arable land, good agricultural land to grow crops on, and also kind of an irregular and rainfall pattern that's pretty seasonal. So there's no good surface water of rivers to pull irrigation water out of. The wells are pretty salty. You can't rely on rainfall. And so those are land and water issues. Given the problem that Dr. Mercosi was given, was like, how do you solve those problems? And his concept was to do aquaculture, integrate fish production with vegetable production in the hydroponic system. And so that's the beginning of how that all developed. The idea of aquaponics, of course, had existed before that, and his research had been using water hyacinths to clean water from fish production. So moving from just water hyacinths as a plant that would get discarded to a vegetable crop that has economic value, I think was another key thing that we developed here. Instead of just mitigating wastewater, we're getting a fish crop and a vegetable crop out of the same system. And I guess a third point was reduction of waste discharge into the environment. Because if you're just going to do a straight aquaculture system, recirculating aquaculture, you're going to have wastewater that gets discharged, and that goes into receiving streams, or you might have to send it to a municipal sewage system for treatment, and that's going to be a cost. So if you can reduce the amount of waste that you're needing to discharge into the environment, that's also a bonus. So those are pretty much the three guiding principles behind our work: was intensification of production in a small area of land, really conservative use of water, and minimal discharge into the environment. So they did start with media beds. We were using gravel from the local quarry, and found that was had a number of different problems when you go with media beds. So even by the time I arrived here in '86, they'd already done their first experiment where they'd removed the gravel media from one set of research systems, and we're just doing the floating styrofoam rafts. And so we've always done, since '86, we've been doing floating deep water culture on rafts production.
So with the deep water culture, just to jump in real quick, are you guys using, what are you doing for solids filtration?
We have passive solids removal. We have a clarifier, takes out by residence time in that tank. The solids settle out of the water, and because that's pretty inefficient, we have net tanks that trap the remaining part of the solids. So using orchard netting that would cover trees for birds preying on fruit trees, we trap the rest of the solids in that net tank.
Okay.
So they're both pretty inefficient methods to do it. But they're cheap. They can, a couple thousand. Our system is big, so I think our main clarifier tank is probably $1,000, and the net tanks might be a couple hundred each. So you've put that cost in up front. It's actually a small part of the whole system cost, but there is labor ongoing to keep those clean. There's removing solids from the clarifier is pretty simple, but then about an hour each week to clean the net tanks out. So there are technology, the drum filters that can be used to take out all the solids in a system, but they're a lot more expensive. So it's a trade-off.
So not as much a fan of like radial flow filters or slow swirl filters as much as just clarifiers where they settle.
We've used the swirl filters, the slow ones, and they're as efficient as the clarifier is.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, we've did a publication on that a few years ago where we compared them. The settling tanks were about the same at solids removal. I have not used a radial flow filter.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if there was a reason that you had a preference of one over the other, but good stuff.
We had a question from Chad on what's the total size of the system or each system that you guys run there?
Well, our big system that we consider our commercial scale system is 30,000 gallons of water. The fish rearing tanks would be about 9,000 gallons of water, and then the rest of the water is out in the hydroponic tanks, and it's 214 square meters. I forget how that turns out into square feet. It's 72 rafts that are 8 by 4 feet. So if you can do the multiplication real quick, you'd find out the square footage of that. But it comes up to 214 square meters.
Nice.
Our production is about 10,000 pounds of tilapia every year. And if we're just growing lettuce in our cool season, when lettuce production is the greatest, you get 35 to 40 cases of lettuce every week during our prime lettuce season, which is we can't grow lettuce all year round because of the heat. But from November to March, we can grow that much lettuce.
What kind of warm weather leafy greens do you guys grow down there?
Well, when it gets warm, we go to cucumbers, okra. Those are a couple crops that grow well in any temperature. Squash does all right. But all the leafy greens kind of drop out. I guess we grow basil in the summertime, Genovese basil. But as far as kale and collards, pak choi, those are some of our regular winter crops that they really decrease in production in the warm temperatures. And we're really just talking about 5 degrees difference in water temperatures, but you can really see a difference.
Yeah, it definitely does make a big difference when it comes to the oxygenation and the root development when looking at the water temperature. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
What kind of testing have you guys done with silica in relation to aquaponics?
We have not looked at that as a nutrient. I know you're a fan of supplementing silica.
Yep, I was kind of curious.
Yeah, have not isolated that, and it doesn't. We do get our water quality tested about every week, especially when we're doing a trial, and it's really not even a standard element that's tested for by our lab. So it'd be something to look into. What form would you add silica?
Replace your potassium. Are you guys using potassium hydroxide or carbonate for your pH up?
Yeah, potassium hydroxide.
Okay, so you'd replace your potassium hydroxide with potassium silicate.
Okay.
Just until you got it up to the level you wanted, and then you can go back to, alternating it occasionally with your, normal potassium supplement.
And what is the level we want it?
So for vegetable growing, we found that it's best to keep it above 60 parts per million. You can go as low as 55 parts per million for lettuce, but it helps a lot, especially in northern climates where you get a little bit of cold and you get the fungus in the lettuces, and then it also helps a lot, especially with cucumbers, zucchini, squash, pumpkins, all those that tend to get powdery mildew really bad by the end of the season, just kind of automatically because of the humidity. It really makes a large difference for those. Also with cannabis as well, we found, but especially in the zucchini and cucumber and squash, it really makes a big difference.
So it's a disease prevention.
Yeah, it helps the plant's immune system. It helps a lot with plant stress. It also helps plants with heat stress quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll probably look at that sometime. But so back to our system, maybe just to walk our way through it. We've got our 4 fish rearing tanks that we do staggered stocking. So at 6-week intervals, we stock a rearing tank with 650-gram fish, and we allow them to grow for 24 weeks and before the harvest comes. So at week 0, you stock, then week 6, 12, 18, and in week 24, you come back to your first tank and harvest and immediately restock them. And so doing that production system, we have a little bit, you have about 8 to 9 harvests every year, depending on how they fall in the calendar. And each harvest, you have 600 fish growing up to 2 pounds each. So you're around 1,000, 1,200 pounds, depending on your survival and how uniformly they grew. So we say 1,000 pounds. And so that 8 to 9 times a year is where we're coming up with our, so 10,000 pounds is probably your good number for pounds of fish that you're producing. And this is tilapia in the tropics, and we're in an outdoor environment. So your numbers will vary depending on your water temperatures, because they do slow down in production when the water gets cold. So the fish are fed a manufactured diet of Purina Aquamax. We import that. It's 32% protein. And we're trying to grow the fish as fast as we can. So we need to give them the highest quality food. If you feed them a low quality food, that's going to slow down their growth rate. They're not going to get to that 2-pound size in 24 weeks. And so either you'll reduce the amount of production you have. But alternative feed is an area that we're looking at right now. A lot of people want to know if you can grow duckweed and feed that back to the fish. So we do research in duckweed right now. A student worker is on that. And it's probably true that you can grow the duckweed off of the waste that you collect from the system. How much you can produce and whether it slows down the growth rate enough that you're going to substitute out some of that food that you're importing and feeding the fish the duckweed. So there's going to be a trade-off, and there'll be some break-even point that you can determine at what point is it worthwhile growing duckweed to feed the fish. So the fish have eaten, they're going to the bathroom. The solid waste is getting removed from the system in the clarifier and the net tanks, which we already discussed a little bit. You don't want to have any of that solid waste going out into the hydroponic tanks because it clogs up on the plant roots in the first section of the trough. And if it does settle out in the bottom of the hydroponic troughs, then of course it's just going to decay be a secondary source of ammonia and be another water quality factor that you have to manage. So getting all the solids out before the hydroponic tanks is really critical. And then our hydroponic beds are 4 feet wide and 100 feet long, and the water, they're in pairs. So the water's traveling down and back and into the sump. And when you look at our pictures of our system, you do see these 3 pairs of hydroponic tanks. That's an artifact of how we developed our technology. We had 2 smaller systems for a couple years. We wanted to modify the design of the fish production side, so we took out the rearing tanks, and then we combined those pairs of hydroponic tanks. So there's definitely, if I were going to start from scratch, I would make just 1 pair of 2 hydroponic tanks. They'd be wider and longer and have the same growing area as what we have, but you'd save on some space. So the water then returns from the hydroponic tanks and into the sump. We have a 1.5 horsepower circulating pump down there, and the water gets pumped up to the rearing tank, and off it goes again. It takes about 5 hours for the water to cycle through from the sump through the rearing tanks and other components, and then back to the sump. So that's a quick walkthrough.
Have you done any experimentation with black soldier flies or with changing the food source as far as minerals?
We have grown black soldier flies. Another good possibility. We don't currently process any of our fish, so we didn't have that many fish carcasses to deal with, but I like the idea if you were having a processing plant to feed them your fish carcasses. Definitely a good way to get rid of them. But sourcing all of that material for black soldier flies is, I think, the limiting factor. If I were to go around the island and go to restaurants and ask for all the plate scrapings from them, that becomes too costly in terms of my time and effort. So I would really want to have that waste stream to be on site and be able to grow my black soldier flies with something that I'm producing myself instead of sourcing it from other facilities.
What surprises have you come across, in your different testing and different things you guys have experimented with?
Well, I'd say, the one big drawback of our system is actually the energy use. Because we've intensified, we're required to aerate the fish tanks, keep all those water quality parameters at their highest level. And to do all that, we use a lot of energy. So it's really I think the problem we need to address is what is the trade-off when you start reducing the amount of aeration into the tanks, and especially I would cut air to the hydroponic troughs and see how that impacts the plant growth. But that's I think that's a big constraint for us right now is the energy use.
Did you have a question, Marty?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I was just wondering. I mean, you were talking about energy use sort of being the constraint, and the oxygen. Are you thinking about experimenting with it, or you have? I think my internet skipped out for a second. I think you said you were either thinking about or had already started experimenting with cutting off your oxygen blowing into the tank. Is that?
Yep. We're more thinking about it than doing it right now. Hopefully we'll be doing it, let's say, by May. Last fall, because we have those 3 pairs of hydroponic tanks, I do have some options and playing around with that. So I cut off all the air to 1 set of hydroponic troughs, and I reduced the air to another pair by half, and left the other pair, operating normally. And there were definitely differences. The system with no air at any time of the day, 24 hours off, definitely had a much smaller plants. So my idea is actually just to turn off the aeration at night. And that's kind of couples with going off grid. If I'm able to reduce the amount of aeration I need overnight, then I wouldn't need less battery backup to run my system.
Right. Have you considered like maybe draining those tanks? I know maybe in your system you can't do it right now, but one of the things that I've done before is shut down some of my systems for a period of time, and just made sure that the tanks were empty as opposed to full, so you weren't doing that. So I don't know if you guys have thought about doing that, but I definitely have considered that as well for myself, just in terms of power usage. Even shutting down the system altogether for certain lengths of time, or using timers as opposed to, like right now I use siphon systems, so that that it's constantly running, and it helps gives the roots exposure to air without pulling it from the water.
Right.
But I've been wanting, and I haven't done it yet, but basically combine the two, where you would have be able to drain the raft beds and still have the roots suspended in the dark.
Yep.
So
we would definitely have to re-engineer the system to do that.
Yeah, I was thinking you probably have to lift it up in the air.
Yeah.
Probably sits too low for that now.
We've got a lot of water in those tanks, and to drain them out, you need to have a sump somewhere on the side to hold that quantity of water. So
Right.
that'd be our constraint, and yeah, there's different ways to engineer around a problem, and that might be a solution. But if you're in a greenhouse where you're already constrained by space and available land, you have to think about where you'd put that water when you drain it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So right now in my system, we're growing 2 kinds of lettuce, a pak choi and kale, 2 kinds of basil, the green Genovese and a red one called red Reuben. I've got some sunflowers in right now for the cut flower business. I've got some tomatoes, really for the first time in a long time. I really shy away from fruiting crops. I like crops the vegetable crops especially, that are leafy greens that are in and out within a 3 to 4 week time period. Just gives you good cash flow. You've got you stagger the production so that you're only harvesting a third of your system every week, and so you've got constantly you have a product to take to the market. Your buyers are expecting something every week. It's not like you're telling them, well, I can bring it to you the first of the month, every 4 weeks, and you're going to have a bunch of it if you plan on harvesting the whole system just once a month. So staggering your production, I like for cash flow. These tomatoes that I put in there, they were seeded in early, let's say mid-December. Right now I've got a lot of fruit on the plant, but I don't have nothing ready to pick yet. And here we are at the beginning of March. So that's 2.5 months that I haven't produced anything from them yet. And in that same period of time, I could have had 3 harvests of lettuce from that area. And I've got to envision a raft that's 4 by 8 feet with 60 heads of lettuce on them at $1 each. So that's $180 worth of lettuce that I could have produced in that time period. And I still don't have even $1 from the tomatoes. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to produce $180 worth of tomatoes, let's say over the next month. So that's why I really like the leafy green for good cash flow for an aquaponic farmer. It's
Yeah,
always
that makes
fun.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's always fun to grow fruiting crops, and your customers are going to be interested in buying other products from you too. But don't commit a large portion of your farm to those crops. You really, it's all about cash flow. You're paying your workers every day. You're paying your electric bill. Those are your daily costs, and at the end of the month, you need to be able to pay them with the product that you've produced and sold.
Yep, and it also depends too on uh, what kind of supplementation or other things you're doing, or if you're growing something like cannabis, which most of us do, where you're able to get a nice big cash crop every 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm. It definitely depends on the crop.
Yeah, I think it also still kind of suffers from that same thing where, pretty much no matter what, I mean, I guess maybe the exception being clones, you're still pretty much limited to being, a cash crop every few months as opposed to having a certain portion of it. Now, you can stagger it as well. I know a lot of people do, so that you're only harvesting a third at a time and be able to do that. But I think the nice thing about greens, like you're talking about, is that they just go so fast from seed to harvest without a lot of prep time or veg time or needing a separate facility to get them going or anything like that. So it definitely still suffers a little bit from that complexity as opposed to just the simple fact of throwing some seeds out and letting them grow for 3 weeks and then taking them to the market is it's pretty simple.
Yeah. And you mentioned supplements. Some of the fruiting crops you need to foliar spray to make sure that they've got balanced nutrients. Calcium on my squash is a pretty common one because they get blossom end rot. And the tomatoes, they might need more potassium in the mix because the water has so much nitrogen in it that they have got a lot of foliage growing. They don't have that much fruiting. So in order to get them to fruit, you need to add phosphorus. So there's more management required if you're doing a fruiting crop than just the straight leafy greens.
Right, and then indoors, you would also have to, worry about, pollination and all that stuff if you're doing like cucumbers or tomatoes or
yes, right,
anything like that. So it definitely just makes it more complex. But you probably do still need, I think, need a certain amount of it, just for the show value and like you mentioned, the same people are gonna want to buy other products from you. So
right,
it definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is mic working? I've been having a little technical difficulty over here.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I'm like, why is everyone ignoring me? This is really, really not cool.
We just don't like you, really. We muted you, turned you off.
Man, you're just like my mom. Always ignoring me, put me to the side. Anyways, but I was going to say, it's good for foliar anyways, just as a regular IPM, I find. So when it comes to supplementing with foliar sprays, it's just a really good way to help boost production on any plant, be it veggie or medical, I've noticed. Yeah, like it really helps out with all my leafy greens and everything. I've noticed my kale's gotten a lot better tasting and just everything's really stepped up.
The thing a lot of people do wrong is that they'll spray right before the plant goes to sleep when the lights go off. Actually, that's when the stomata are at their smallest diameter. You really want to spray about an hour after the lights come on when the stomata are at their largest diameter so you can get the largest molecule up into that plant.
Yeah, but I think their mentality with that is also things like Azmax or neem oils or other oily products. You're going to give your plants a little bit of a sunburn, so they might be trying to avoid that. Unless you're using, say, optic foliar, which I've noticed I can spray those things and not really have an issue with any burn.
Well, you also have better luck with a fogger than you will with an actual water sprayers as well. But yeah, I know you can get a little bit of burn, which can look a little bit like spider mite damage, but it can be, you're still gonna get a better input result if you do it then.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you
my
on
lights
that.
way up. So with the LEDs, they're a little softer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Especially when you're comparing that LED you're talking about to, say, a 1,000 watt high pressure sodium.
Oh yeah, for indoor especially, yeah, that might be more of an issue, but still.
Yeah, I mean just in general, that is melting the outside of the plant to start with. So throwing water on top is probably not the best idea.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that.
But for the LEDs here, I do it fine as long as it's just water. I do avoid oil spray, but that's about it. And I do lift them up in the air, so anytime I spray anything, I lift them up so they're they're a good, probably 3 feet above the canopy. And
when you say you lift them, oh, you're talking about the lights. Okay, I was like, you're lifting your plant. Let's just take them towards the light, Marty.
Nope, wouldn't do that. Yeah, so my lights are, I can just pull them up on I have an adjustable thing, so just lift them up pretty easy. Nice. And you mentioned sources of silica earlier, and one of the things that I do is I ferment horsetail fern, which I can harvest here locally, just about any stream, and I ferment it and then use it as a foliar spray. And works great for adding silica and treats mold and all kinds of good stuff in that. Yep. So I don't know. I know horsetail fern is pretty common. There's a lot of different kinds of it. So, but it's a pretty interesting plant, and it's a great source of those sort of trace minerals. So I do that as a foliar quite a bit.
You just have to be a little bit careful. If you dose real large amounts of horsetail fern, it can lock out the vitamin B availability in your plants. So you can do it, but you don't want to do it every single week.
And as far as making your own teas, you get a lot of variability in the quality of the tea that you've produced. You're not making a uniform batch every time. And so It's hard to replicate over time. And then it's also hard to tell other people how to do it and have them replicate it the same way as well. So, it's like when you buy something in a bottle from a company, you're pretty much guaranteed analysis, but you don't know what you're getting when you're making your own teas all the time.
That's true. It's it's far less of an exact science in terms of that. But the trade-off is you can harvest it locally and doesn't really cost you anything.
Right. I'm just thinking in terms of the industry, and building that out beyond personal scale and hobby scale stuff, to actually commercialize these ideas, you need to have uniformity.
I've done a lot of experimenting with the potassium silicate, also with silicon dioxide, which is a much lower availability. Your pH anywhere near as much. And also, had halfway decent luck with that. But
I think your microphone's dropping out again.
Stevie.
Yeah, your microphone dropped again.
Steven.
Is he gone?
Oh, thank God. It took him long enough to leave. I've been waiting. All right, back to the Marty show. Mark, what's going on with you, dude?
I'm just DDoSing Steve, kicking him off the mic.
You have to put him in check.
What's going on with me? I've been working on my indoor, kind of getting that a little more beefed up. And just sort of grinding away on that. I have my little sips box here next to me. I'm feeding aquaponic water to. I don't know if you guys can see that very well or not. But anyway, little sub-irrigated planter I have running there. So I added it in. Looks like Steve's back. Yay, Steve.
Boo.
Sorry about that. My
Boo
Okay.
this man.
And so it just gets fed tank
I don't know what
water
happened there.
after I dose from the worm bin. Then I take water out of the main tank and fill it up here. But honestly, I don't even have to do it very much. I'm just now starting to get down to where I can see the top of the rocks in the reservoir, and I think it's been about maybe a week and a half or so since I added water to it. So it's probably going to be about once every 2 weeks. I think that it's going to end up needing water, and other than that, it's going to be pretty much hands off. I haven't really done too much to it, so I like it so far. It's a nice way to sort of expand the, like if I, doing water changes or, taking stuff out of the filters or any of that kind of stuff can end up going into the earth boxes or,
Right on, man.
so it's pretty cool.
Okay,
Probably make some more of them.
I think my internet stabilized. Tell me if it didn't.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. I don't really know what happened there. I just had a hiccup with the internets. What is the strangest or most difficult plant you guys have grown there at UVI?
Well, the most difficult plant is, really probably tomatoes are the most difficult to get them to fruit because we have so much nitrogen in the system. The strangest plant, I'm not sure I'd call it strange, but we grow the roselle, which is used in hibiscus tea. We call it sorrel down here. It's a red it's a red pod. It's very related to okras, and that's a really good crop. Another thing that's really popular now are the bitter melons in the cucumber family. They people looking for natural cures for high blood pressure, they eat this bitter melon. So that's another crop. Once you target in on special needs people, then you can boost the price up. So locally produced bitter melon is a good crop for us.
I just want to clarify, when you say special needs people, you're talking about people who specifically want a particular plant and not somebody with a handicap.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, if you're ranking up the price for handicapped people, that's pretty messed up.
No, special diets. Well, yeah, special diet. People who need special diets, we raise the price for them. I mean, we want to grow a crop that's desirable to them as well. So yeah, we would grow that.
So another crop orders.
Another crop I grew a while ago was why can't I ever think about it? It's slipping my mind right now what it is. It's not flax. We were growing it for fiber. I want to say sisal, but anyhow, we were just growing a fiber crop because it was like because you can't grow leafy greens in the summertime as well. If you just want to kind of take a break from growing things in your system, if you can grow a crop that's still going to take up the nitrogen waste and do the water treatment that you need to have happen, but you don't really have to care about the quality of a food crop coming out of it. So we were growing a fiber crop for that. And
right on.
I'll know it when I say it. It's
fennel, maybe.
Anyway,
if it's anything related to, go ahead.
Jute. I'm sorry. Jute.
Okay, I would have been way off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And jute's made into rope, and it might have a small market for some people who are into natural fibers and knitting and making their own cloth. Getting back to the earth, making your own clothing. So you could grow jute and basically just grow it through the summertime or when you want to take some time down on your regular vegetable crop and but still have something in the system. Because once you get the system started, you really don't get to stop it again. It takes too long to start it up and get the fish acclimated and growing and the bacteria started. So always keep the system running, even if you're not growing a productive crop.
Yep, always got to export those nutrients.
Yes, get them out of there.
What do you feel is not covered enough in aquaponic teaching or in aquaponic media as far as topics or, particular problems?
Probably startup cost. People think they can do it really cheaply. They don't want to invest that much money into it, and it's actually a pretty intensive system. You're taking all these unnatural components, fiberglass tanks or line tanks, expensive components, fitting them all together with PVC pipe, making sure the water flows the right direction, getting the design right, are all real important things. And I think so. You see a lot of systems, on the internet that this will work, but they're not really tested. The really low cost systems, and how much effort goes into running a little low cost system with low production versus investing the proper amount of money into it if you're going to be commercial and getting the returns that you've been looking for. If you want to quit your day job, you need to invest.
Very true. And something I just want to interject real quick and follow up on. I've been forgetting the whole show because you're talking earlier about how you guys steered away from media beds, and you mentioned the gravel. And when I started out, I did was it 3/4 inch gravel, which if you've ever seen videos from Murray Hallam, he kind of talks about, and that's where I got the idea. But after about a year, when the beds were getting a little gunked up and a little bit too much fish waste, I tried to make an air spear to blow it off the bottom easily like I would with a hydrogen bed. But that gravel, man, it was just impossible. You have to completely empty out that bed basically if you want to get rid of the excess sludge and waste. So for anybody out there that's going to be doing a kind of media, I would steer away from, and you don't want a headache. I would actually invest the cash it takes to get the hydrogen media. It's much easier to work with in the long run. If you have heavier plants, like fruit trees you might be trying to do in the aquaponic grow bed, I guess I say go with the gravel, but get a solids filter in there, because if you're in there to clean some of that out, you're going to just have a headache and a half with the gravel.
And every time you harvest a crop, you're leaving roots behind. So really not good for the lettuces and things where you're removing the whole plant every time.
I always have to reach in there and dig most of them out. I feel I can leave some of them just because of all the enzymes that are naturally in there and all the composting worms I've got in my media. But yeah, you got to get as much of that dead material out of there so you don't have an anaerobic zone building up.
Yep. And hydroton's pretty expensive.
And that's where things
unfortunately, I know that story way too well. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
I was going to say that's when things like red worms and especially black worms, your real small worms species come into play to help. They won't solve everything, but they definitely help with that situation.
Another thing you can do is use like other microbials. Like for instance, if you have a bed that you want to just clean up, you can decouple it from the system. And I've spread out like EM1 powder, like it's a rice flour, basically, or rice bran, I guess it is.
Let's
a bokashi brand, that's what I was trying to think of. It's an EM1 bokashi brand. And so spread all that out and cover it up, and in a matter of just a few weeks, they'll eat through a lot of the solids and make it a lot easier to clean out.
We're going to do a little myth busting later. There was a pretty outrageous post in the aquaponics world this week, and they just had too much bad information for us not to reply to. Marty's laughing.
I knew you'd bring it up. I knew you had to.
Marty's laughing. I
am laughing.
I literally was in tears laughing when I read this originally. It was just like, Oh God, people would actually think this stuff is like real information. So we're
You'll
gonna
never
put out
guess what
some good
website it's from.
information. Oh yeah, you'll never guess.
No, I'll stay out of it then.
Oh no, it's
High
fine.
times.
Oh no. Oh yes. Yeah, it was high time. No. um, what do you
Talk
see
about
as
it later.
the what do you see as the future of the aquaponics industry going forward? You know, in the next couple of years.
In the near future, it's going to be just based on cities and local production, local markets. There's just too many people in the world right now that people ask me if is aquaponics going to replace conventional agriculture, and probably not for another 100 years, because there's just too many people right now. The system isn't. I mean, it's really productive, and it's addressing that problem of waste discharge. I think that's probably where it'll come in to being more impactful, like in 100 years, when we're limited on other nutrients, and we want to reclaim all we can from waste streams. But right now, conventional agriculture is really what's feeding the world. So I still look at it as high value crops for people who really want to be part of the food supply, understand where their food's coming from. But it's not the general public that's going to be buying aquaponics vegetables, and paying the premium price that we need to get from our production, because we're covering a lot more costs than they do in just conventional field production.
What is your opinion on a lot of these isolated microbial inoculants? I know Marty and I are both a big fan of stuff like Mammoth P, which are isolated phosphorus microbes that work similar to the way the nitrification process works, but for phosphorus to help unlock a lot of, because it's a large percentage of locked up phosphorus in the systems already. It helps make a lot of that more value available. What do you think? What do you see as the future of those? I think that's a way that we can get a lot more nutrients out of these systems without necessarily having to worry about fish health.
Yeah, and Mammoth P is now creating Mammoth N and Mammoth K as well.
Yep.
Yeah, those are definitely the way that things are going to be going, to extract those nutrients out of the waste streams, and using biological methods to do it. But those are the impact is trying to get all the nutrients out of that waste stream. That's why you see more decoupled systems now, because you can increase your production with a side stream flow, basically, through another aquaponics, just a straight hydroponic system, and pull out more nutrients. So whatever you got to get that done, those are all definitely on the horizon of what's going to be happening in aquaponics.
And just for people who are new, would you be able to possibly just explain what a decoupled system is, as opposed to like a regular system with just a sump tank, a fish tank, and a grow bed?
Yeah, well, instead of having it all in one system, you have just a fish recirculating aquaculture system, which is producing a waste stream, and then you take that waste and aerate it, oxidize it, make sure it's stabilized, remove the ammonia waste from it, and then feed that to a straight hydroponic system. So the hydroponics system runs by itself, and the aquaculture system run by itself, and the source of nutrients is for the hydroponics is from the aquaculture system.
Okay, right on. And is there ever really a risk of, since you've got the plants in a separate system from the aquaculture system, from what I'm hearing, is there ever a risk of getting, a nitrogen toxicity before you can try and get the water cleaned up a little bit for the fish?
I would be you treat the water through aeration for, it might be 2 weeks before you move that water into your hydroponic tanks. So no, it would be, that's why I say stabilize the water first. Make sure the ammonia is all oxidized out of it.
Right on.
And so the problem with the decoupled system is you're probably going to be deficient in some nutrients. You might have to watch for more opportunities to supplement than in a recirculating, a coupled system.
Yeah, that's why we do the dual root zones it allows us to supplement directly in a single loop without having any issues. It also gives us a lot more microbial diversity at the root zone, especially we notice for woody crops such as trees or some of the other stuff that's blueberries and raspberries. They really do much, and even things like osha root is another good one. There's a couple of medicinal herbs. Excuse me, it's escaping me at the top of my head at the moment, but that do much better with that. Even a shallow soil layer for the mycorrhizal networks that really help those woodier crops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to keep crops in the system for a really long time because of the sitting in the water, which is an unnatural environment for a lot of them. So they're more open to disease, fungal diseases, insects, even underwater. So keeping them, that's one of the reasons I focus on those quick crops in and out before they can get sick. So once you're looking at a long-term crop, those blueberries got to be really expensive after you've grown that crop for 6 months and you're finally getting around to picking a blueberry.
Yeah, I try and focus on 3-month-long crops myself.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to head out if you have any more questions.
Okay, let's just check chat real quick. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Let's check and make sure.
Yeah, thanks for all the information. Really, really appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else wrote in?
Fish guy, you have anything else?
No, this was all great. I learned a lot today. I'm glad I got to stay for more than 5 minutes for once. We'll try and make that more of a regular occurrence. And thanks again for stopping in on the show today, man. I'm sure the viewers got to learn a lot of material.
Yeah, I will listen into your podcast more often to become a regular.
All right, appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Feel free to join us at any time. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Okay. Appreciate the call.
Have a great rest of your day, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. How you guys
Nice
doing?
guy.
Yeah, he was great. I really appreciate him joining us. If you guys are interested to learn more, check out in the description. There's a link to his classes he teaches down at UVI. They're some of the best out there. If you want to go away to the tropics, it's definitely one to want to check out. Also, for those of you wanting to take a cannabis class, the next aquaponic cannabis class will be taught up at Ouroboros on March 25th and 26th. And Ouroboros at Half Moon Bay, California. Give that a check out. Sorry about that. Wanted to mention that before I forgot.
Oh, no problem. You guys limit the number of seats, or what's your format like for that?
Yeah, we can do up to 52 people. I prefer to have a class of like 30 or less because I feel like I can actually.
So that's your stocking density. Questions. The max is 52.
I think that's the most that we can do there, if memory serves me right. But it's been a while since we taught one that big. But we did have last weekend. I taught up at Ouroboros for the medicinal herb class. We had a really good time. I appreciate everyone coming out there. I'll post a couple pictures up of the class. It'll be fun. But yeah, that
rock and roll, man.
That bitter melon that he was talking about is one of the plants that I actually go over in the class.
Well, hey, I'm going to cut out and go H2O2 some pots and get them ready for clones that I'm putting in hopefully in a few days in the system. I'm just waiting for a few more to root, but they're tormenting me in the meantime.
Awesome.
Yeah, it'll be great, man. I just got the new Black Dog light in the mail yesterday, put it up. It looks fabulous. The Spectrum Kings look good. I just fixed that plumbing issue. It only took a week. And yeah. Marty, I hope everything's going well with you and the family. Steve, hope everything's going down well with you down south. If I can make it down there in the next 2 weeks, which I'm hoping to do, depends on work, I will definitely hit you up so we can link up.
Did we lose Steve?
Steve? Stevie!
And he's gone. All right, man. We'll take it easy.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Marty Show. Marty, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Later.
Hopefully Steve will be back in here pretty soon. So I was just looking, and I posted this to the Aquaponic Cannabis Growers group too, if you guys want to check this out. But looks like Sessions, Jeff Sessions, is going to recuse himself from Russia investigations, which that's sort of the duh. Hopefully that actually happens. And also, I guess, I'm here by myself. I'll show you this too. So we were talking about decoupled aquaponics. Here's sort of a really easy example. That's decoupled from the system. It just has water that I fill out to the tank. So that goes in here, and down there in the bottom is the reservoir. So that's separate from the aquaponic system, which is over there behind me, and is in part of the recirculating system. So what goes into this plant here that you're looking at, the water just evaporates out, and any solids that are in it are left in the bottom of the reservoir and digested by bokashi. So there's an example of here. This would be decoupled because it is not part of the system, and I manually feed it, but not very often. So who's on chat? Let me go check that out. I'm not even looking. What is that? An earth box? Yes, that is basically an earth box. So it's a homemade one. You can check it out on my channel, AP Meds. I made a video about it, but essentially it's just a plastic storage container. What's up, Brian? Or Brain? Sorry, Brain Grow. So the bottom third of that storage container is lava rock or hydrogen media that I pulled out. And then there's landscaping paper is laid down in between to keep the soil up out of the bottom. And then, so that makes a little reservoir down at the bottom. And I add water and tea in through the pipe there, which has holes drilled in the bottom of it. So it's basically a homemade earth box, and I do highly recommend checking those out. And especially if you like don't have a system or room to run a system right now, or you're just starting and you want to like grow some meds, for instance, if you have a sudden need to do so for yourself or a family member, Google up probiotic wellness garden. It's like everything you need. It's simple, stupid. And it's basically a dual root zone, but with its own little reservoir down at the bottom. So yeah, definitely check that out. And if you want to look up how to make, or how I made this one, you can check out the video on my YouTube, and I talk about it a little bit more. But for the most part, that's it. You fill up the rest with soil and keep that reservoir topped off. But again, you're only watering it about once every 2 weeks, and it's super easy. I am doing dual root zone, but the soil never dries out. Is it supposed to? Yes, the soil is absolutely supposed to dry out. Kool-Aid, you want to raise your pots up or lower your water level. So you're getting too much wicking in your soil layer. Steve, are you back yet?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh, cool. I was just filling time while you were gone.
No, I was just fixing the links. The guy said the links weren't working in chat. Just trying to
Cool.
fix them. So I appreciate him letting us know.
Right on. So I see Brain Grow is back with us again.
Yeah, I want to try and get him on the show here soon. I was looking at some of his YouTubes the other day.
Nice.
So do you want to talk about fucking session stuff?
Fucking session stuff. Yeah, I mean, so I just read that article, and I don't really know. I mean, there's not really any Russia investigations right now that I know of. So it kind of seems like, what is he recusing himself from, and why isn't he just being prosecuted or investigated?
Right.
I would much rather hear about either of those things, like, I don't know. I'm glad that he is, if they do ever have any, but I'm sure they'll just get some other fucking lackey to say whatever they want. It's the government, after all.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about how last week, you weren't on the show last week, and I was hoping to have you on the show. Do you want to talk about, I don't know, I guess the implications of Sean Spicer's shit yesterday?
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically, for anybody that was looking to get in the recreational market, like myself included, we had plans all put together, and property being purchased, and sort of everything all set and ready to go, budgets made, and then obviously when you get confronted with something like, possibly being outright targeted, and even like threatening a high times event. I don't know if you heard about that, but
Yep.
so when that stuff starts to happen, and people get nervous, and that's what happened here. So basically, they'll probably still end up doing something on a smaller scale, but and have to stay in the medical market, which is probably fine. But you're talking about a quarter of the plants that they could grow previously, which means a quarter of the profit, which means relocating myself is not really an option. So, and they were pretty fair about it and open and honest, and they paid me for my consulting up until this point, and so all that's good. But definitely, I would have liked to see that project sort of come to fruition as opposed to go by the wayside, at least for now. So I'll be setting up my maximum plants that I can here, and probably looking for another piece of property here locally. And so pretty much all that is just because people are afraid of jail, and that's because Sessions came out and said, or not Sessions, but Spicer came out and said that, and then Sessions followed him up afterwards and said, yep. And Sessions is on record already, talking about how good people don't smoke marijuana, and it's pretty, sort of the writings on the wall. So when you're when you're an investor looking to invest in something, it changes the risk of whether or not you're going to get your return. And that's a realistic thing. And I guess I just wish that they would stop killing jobs. That's not really what they're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. It's pretty fucked. I didn't even know what to say last week. It was just like, really? We're going to do this shit again? Like, come on. We just got past all this shit. But at least, like, the governments of California and Colorado and a bunch of other states looks like they're going to band together and file a kind of lawsuits to try and block it. So we'll see. Now, hopefully, it looks like Sessions will be kicked out of office.
Yeah, I mean, he really should. at this point. Like, I don't see how he could stay there, but I don't see how he could have gotten. I didn't see how he could have been confirmed either. So
Yeah.
for me, it's sort of like, you know, yeah. At this point, I don't want to assume that I know what's going to happen. My guess is he'll probably be like, "Oh, whoops, I didn't mean it. I didn't realize that, you know, the question was what it was." I mean, they're already fucking dancing their normal bullshit, so they'll probably investigate themselves, find out that nothing is fucking wrong. They're like, "Oh, look, I checked on myself and everything was great. Yay!" I mean, how do you take that seriously? Like, what's that even mean? So I don't. Maybe I'm just overly cynical, but I think he'll probably slough it off because he's rich and white and can do that kind of shit. What part of the country are you guys in? I am in Oregon, Kool-Aid. And yes, Sessions is a douche.
I'm in California for now. I wish I could tell you guys more about what's happening, but it looks like I won't be in California for the whole summer. Unless something changes dramatically, I'll be going someplace else, which I'll be able to talk about when I'm allowed to talk about it, but it's going to be a big grow, so you guys will like it.
Right on.
So hopefully come May or June, I'll be up with some cool content.
Yeah, so pretty much going to be focused on cranking out some plans here. And, right on, Kool-Aid. I like Eugene. It's a cool place. I used to live in Oak Ridge when I was, let's see, fifth, sixth grade, something like that. Lived in Oak Ridge for a little while. Anyway, so I got a couple of projects going on here. I'm going to build some other earth boxes and sort of expand the indoor, probably get some new lights. I have an old server rack here that I use for drying. I'm going to turn it into sort of like a little self-contained AP system. And I don't know, I'll either use it for clones or flower a plant in it or something. But see, it's sitting over here. I got it all stripped down. My little pile of crap over here. But
that'd be great. Write a comedy about a guy that like secretly replaces a bunch of the server cabinets with like weed grows in the middle of the server room.
Hey, it'll be just like Legoland. Did you see that shit?
Oh yeah, that was so awesome. For those of you
just
who
like
don't
that,
know,
it'll be like you'll find it at like GoDaddy.com, like a whole server room or a whole room will be just nothing but aquaponic server cabinets.
Yeah, there was they found in Legoland, the UK, there was a couple abandoned buildings in the back of the property, and they went in there after they saw somebody like going in there and found like a whole huge grow up that was running inside of this place.
It was a lot of fucking plants, man.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a little grow up either. It was like borderline commercial scale.
Yeah. It was pretty legit. I was impressed.
I'm gonna see what I can do about getting out to the DGC Cup here. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it out there with Fish Ganja Guy. Maybe do an episode from there. It'd be kind of cool. We're trying to work something out right now. It's pretty cheap for me to fly round trip to Denver from here, so.
That story was pretty unbelievable. I'm not sure which story you're talking about, Brian. Brain. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. I'm dyslexic, but your name fucked with my head. Which unbelievable story? Could you be more specific? Oh, right.
There was a bunker found in Australia this week too. Hold on, let's see if I can find the article real quick. In Armadale.
Australia has medical launching pretty soon, right? Or did launch or something.
Yeah, medical has been passed. I don't think they have their grows license or set up yet. So but yeah, they had a big bunker that got uncovered down there, and there's lots of different. I don't know. The biggest news has been like the sky is falling from the announcement at the end of last week, with that happened like right before the show last week about them possibly coming after patients again. So, man, I'll see. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can. What I'm allowed to say next time. Hopefully, I'll have some more news. I have a real big project coming up that I think you guys are gonna really, really, really enjoy, and we'll get a lot of super kick-ass content out of with some people that have been around for a while. So, it'll be a lot of fun. What else do we? Let me find my chart here for what I had for the podcast. Oh, shout out to True Aquaponics. We both use their stuff pretty regularly now, and they were kind enough to put me on their website for helping people, for doing consulting and stuff. So I don't pay them; they don't pay me or anything like that. I just do a portion of their stuff for them, as far as helping him with customers once in a while. So yeah, give them a shout out. I don't get paid out of that, so yeah, give them thanks for helping us do that, and yeah, thanks for supporting the show that way. So if you're looking for any nutrients, go check him out over there. And what did I have? Oh,
I bought something from him. I don't remember what it was now. I think it was iron. He's always going around telling everyone they need iron, which I'm sure sometimes is accurate, but it's not always. But I think he means well enough, and definitely he does a lot of research to make sure that he has aquaponic friendly
stuff.
Yeah, nutrients, or and a lot of stuff too that's not even nutrients. Like he has I think a really good solution for a tank heater. Just different things you need to do aquaponics as opposed to just nutrients also. So I definitely think that he does as good a job as you can in researching all the stuff that he provides. And if he's not comfortable with it or he's not sure, then he doesn't provide it. So I think that's a huge benefit to all his customers.
He did a super killer write-up on powdery mildew that he posted up today. It's really, really good.
Cool.
If you guys are interested, go check it out over there. I had I don't remember if I mentioned it last time or not. I might have, but congratulations on South Africa becoming the first African nation to legalize medical cannabis. It's a big step forward, and that country could really use it. The income and helping people with AIDS patients, because the country definitely could use the help. Before we were going to talk about trace. Oh, do you have any other topics you want to touch on? Then I'll touch on this other.
I don't think so.
Okay. Somebody asked about trace elements. We'll cover a couple real quick. These are just like 5 of them that you want to at least aren't super critical, but if you're having a couple of phantom issues, somebody actually asked in the group, I think it was, I don't know, maybe like a month ago, about cobalt. So the ideal cobalt range is 0.5 parts per million. The best way to dose it if you don't have enough is cobalt sulfate, and it helps for your beneficial microbes. It also helps the plants with their immune system and their like stress resistance, kind of like not exactly chemically, but in a similar manner to silica, where it helps the plant to defend off diseases more than actually solve a disease in and of itself, or any kind of pest issue. Iodine can also be another thing that, especially if you're having a lot of fish health issues or fungal issues, you can dose, give them dip your fish in an iodine-rich water for a short period of time. Helps sometimes with that, or even taking your fish out and using iodine directly on the fish wound. But in a system, you want to aim for about 0.5 parts per million for iodine, and then if you're going to dose, use Lugos iodine, which is commonly available for both the animal and aquatics trades. You can get them in most higher end pet shops, in a little eyedropper usually. Nickel you want at about 0.1 parts per million. If you need to add more, you can use nickel sulfate. Helps with enzyme production and as well as proper metabolism in the plants. It was only discovered as a plant essential nutrient in 2004, and there's some really good information out on it, but there's not much. But the little bit there is all from the collegiate level, so it's something else to consider if you're running into a couple phantom issues. Sodium, we actually had somebody texted me or emailed me this week about sodium. The ideal levels for sodium for plant growth is about 1 part per million, 0.5 to 1 parts per million. You can add this with sodium, literally anything sodium, sodium and calcium, sodium and magnesium, there's all different kinds of stuff. So, and it aids in certain plant nutrient availability, and certain microbes need a little bit of it in order to give you that proper mix. And then the last one is vanadium, and the recommended levels for vanadium is 0.5 to 1 parts per million, and this helps with acts as a chemical substitute for molybdenum. So if you're doing really heavy really colorful, color popping cannabis, adding a little tiny bit of that can be a good way to help it. Or if you're running, absolutely zero, if you're still running into some weird color issues, it can be something that, you can look into as far as alternative in that realm. But chemically it functions very similar to molybdenum. Those are something I've been meaning to do for a podcast or two, and it just got pushed back because of different topics or timelines and stuff like that. The other one, we had a question about germination. I like to germinate my seeds in a glass of water first, and about 6 pH, 6.5 pH, something like that, a little slightly on the lower side, and then you can also do it in tap water. It's not going to make that big of a difference. And then also putting, maybe a quarter to half a shot of, actually about a half shot of peroxide, 3% peroxide in a 8-ounce glass of water, and then put your seeds in. Works really good for helping extra oxygen in the water and getting those seeds to crack. And if you still are having luck, we've talked about in the past the seed sprout tea. Seed sprout tea is a really good a method where you germinate a bunch of other seeds, usually corn or beans or something else pretty easily. You're readily on hand, and then you take that water and pour it off into your
corn
another
is super
cup.
easy.
Yeah, corn's the best one.
Great.
And then putting that water into the cup with your older seeds or hard to germinate seeds, and a lot of times that extra hormone from those other seeds helps a lot with getting them germinated. And then after that, just do your phenome hunt.
So Kool-Aid asked if you've ever used Microbe Life products. I haven't. I don't know what they are. So.
Oh. Yeah, let's get to that. Let me find that link. All right. So there was a pretty ridiculous post that we've gotten a couple questions of this week. I need to go up and find it.
Oh, is that from that same post?
Yeah, it's the one you sent me.
Oh, no, this Kool-Aid just asked in the comments about using Microbe Life specifically.
Oh, Microbe Life products. Okay.
Like it's capitalized.
Let me look here. Oh, so I've seen this stuff in the store. I didn't get a chance to look at the label. Which one specifically?
I checked out the label. And it's basically a whole lot of the the usual suspects in terms of microbes. So I didn't see anything that was alarming, but I didn't buy it. I didn't use it, so can't tell you for sure. But they do have it at my local hydro store.
Oh, I've used a lot of their products in aquaponics, but I'd have to see the specific product you're asking about.
It's photosynthesis plus O. That's their base one that they have. I've seen it before, and I've heard people say that it's safe. I think it even says on the bottle that it's either aquaponics or fish safe, but it was pretty spendy, and I didn't feel like buying it, basically.
I'd have to look at that doesn't have any, oh, hold on. There's a label. Oh God, it's so small. I'd have to see a full-size label for this. Oh, we can do it. I'll look it up next time. If you want to email me the exact products that you want, I'll go through it for next episode. I'm having a hard time finding the MSDS. Well, give me 2 more seconds. I'll see if I can find it here. But it really just depends on what's in it. Hold on, okay. So it's got a bunch of microbes in it. And then where's the minerals that are in it?
It seemed like it was like a little bit of kelp extract or something in it also. Besides that, I don't remember what it was, but
as long as there's no yucca.
Microbes and a little bit of food.
Yucca is the biggest issue with fish. Yucca contains saponin, and if you concentrate saponin, you can actually use it for killing stuff. So it's microbe life, photosynthesis plus. Let's see. I don't really have much in the way of ingredients on here. Looks like it's mostly a microbial product with a little bit of phosphorus and a little bit of potassium. Okay, driver phosphoric acid and potassium sulfate. So yeah, I don't see a reason why that would be at all an issue to use in aquaponics. That should do just fine. All right, should we get to this ridiculous post we saw there you sent me, or
sure, go for it.
Is there another question before then?
I mean, I don't even really want to post the link to that just because I feel like
I don't want to I'm not gonna post a link to the article. I just wanted to go over like how ridiculous this is. Anyways, so our friends so we have some friends at well, not friends, people that really don't like the fact that we do an aquaponic cannabis show, and love to find ways to try and annoy us. So they have this made this amazing post the other day, and it was kind of funny. They recommended not oversizing your aeration, which is pretty laughable. There was no, I don't know why they would do that. I don't know. They said that EM1 and beneficial microbes and other things like mammoth P have no place in aquaponics because they imbalance the system. Again, there is zero evidence to back any of that up. In fact, all the evidence is much to the contrary. They greatly benefit your system. We've been preaching the praises of teas and ferments for what, over a year now. We've been working with them the whole, years, and over 5 years, 6 years this year for me in aquaponics specifically. I know you've been doing it. I know we've both been doing teas and ferments for at least 10 years in gardening, if not more.
Yeah.
So another one they had that one here. Black soldier flies and worms cause disease. That's the opposite of what they do. Black soldier flies, they're actually a larva or a maggot. They have antibiotic shit, poop, and that basically helps kill microbes. Worms have microbes in their gut that break down E. coli and salmonella. Again, reducing your overall levels of E. coli and salmonella. This has been heavily documented in soil soil cleanup, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like where they're getting this wonky donkey information is just beyond me. And recommending you should never dose pH down, another laughable concept. Why would you do that? We all know that you need to keep your pH within a certain level. And if you do start off with high pH, that's what you need to do. And then there was another one about not adding potassium to the system. We all know that your plants, especially flowering crops, need potassium, and even leafy greens need to keep a potassium level between, ideally the average for the whole industry, if you count Ricosia's research, UVI, UVA, University of Wisconsin, University of Hawaii, is actually 67 parts per million, which is not what you're going to get through fish food. So, be mindful that just because someone's been around for a long time doesn't mean they know what they're doing, and that there's a lot of just really garbage information out there. So, be mindful of that. Like I was beside myself when I saw this, because what happens is you get people that go out there, they take this stuff seriously, and then they end up screwing their system up, killing a bunch of stuff. Then they get disinterested in the hobby, and then they don't want to do it anymore, or they think it doesn't work, or they spread bad information because they got a bad education. It's not that they're a bad grower, they just weren't told the right material. So, I really this was just too outrageous and had too many things out there that were just completely ridiculous. I really just had to take some time and address this, because, there's no reason for it, especially when these guys have been used by the DEA as sock puppets already. So,
yeah, I think it's just, it was so outrageous. Like I had to send it to you because I knew you were going to, think the same thing about a lot of that stuff. And I just can't even imagine like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pick random reasons why stuff happened and then be like, act like an authority on it. And like, even just as you read through it in the explanation of like, or lack thereof, I guess, of how they drew all these conclusions was laughable. I couldn't, and that's the problem, like you were saying, like, and that's why I don't want to post a link to it, because I feel like people will just go to it and,
give them more traffic.
Right. And still, think, oh, well, maybe I should do it like these people, or listen to them, or even just click another link on that same website.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, or just give it any more attention than it deserves. But it just goes to show you that, and we've talked about this before on the podcast, like you have to do things like, I'm all for researching on the internet and watching our podcast and watching other podcasts and other people's videos. But I feel like what actually gets you over the hump of understanding a lot of this stuff is physically doing it yourself, so that it helps you weed out all the complete nonsense from the actual information that's worth sharing. And so, it's a fine line to walk of learning from others and sharing information and trying to grow in that way, as opposed to just blindly listening or whatever else.
I mean, this is from a same company that pushes you don't need to dose iron and a bunch of other silly things that we all know are not true. So, they did a whole hit piece on me at one of the big conventions a couple years ago, and it was like just really funny, because you could tell it was just the DEA talking through them.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was too ridiculous. They talk about just a whole bunch of just made up crap in this post. I couldn't. The only thing that I agreed with in their whole thing was a little bit about citric acid over long term. We're talking like 1 year plus heavy use, but that's about it. Anyways, I would just be careful where you get your information. And I'm not saying that we're 100% right on everything. We're not. I'm not going to go and tell you that I'm the only one that knows how to do stuff. I will tell you that I've experimented with a lot, and I've had a lot of experience with a lot of different methods, and I can explain to you why a lot of them didn't work, or the problems that we ran into. But you know, to go out there and just say that a bunch of this stuff is just to try and make more money when it actually that is not at all the case is just absolutely ludicrous. And you know, to have some of these bigger companies out there putting out some of this ridiculous information, you can't be having that. We gotta. That's what's so important about, you know, doing podcasts like this, and for some of the other people like Colin or Column, who we had on there, puts out good information and shows you his garden every week and shows you that it's working, you know, and stuff like that. So, or Marty posts all of his stuff all the time. You know, if you have a question, he can explain to you what happened and why it happened, rather than just pulling stuff out of thin air and saying, "Oh, well, this doesn't work." You know, you don't know that. Like, come on, you've never tested that. You're just saying it because it's different than what you preach,
Right,
which
or
is
because
what
you
a
read
lot
it,
of these
or
guys
you
do.
watched it in Bright Agrotech's video or whatever. You know,
Oh yeah,
like,
they're
so
another big source of, especially when we used to work for aquaponics source. Like a lot of these different things that come out and try to be like the standalone authority end up causing far more problems than they solve. That's why Marty and I both will tell you we don't know everything. We'll tell you, I'll give you some real good recommendations that are backed up with data that I could send you. Marty's seen some of the back ends of stuff that I do. I can show you all kinds of data charts to back up what I'm saying, or the numbers, or you
or
know,
the plants. I
whatever
think
it is,
that's
or the
probably like,
plants. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's ultimately the, you know, the plants and the product and being able, like, I feel like you have to show your garden over time. You know, if I'm looking at it as somebody who's going to take a video as a credible source, I'm looking at, you know, can I see this over time? Do they share what their methods are? You know, is there more than just like the picture of the end result and like maybe two pictures of some clones at the beginning? You know, like
yeah.
you know, where's the in between and sort of the, you know, the explanation behind it. So I do feel like it's important if you're sharing information, whether you're doing it in like a grow log in an IC mag type format, or, you know, there has to be some level of transparency. And even in places like, you know, like I mentioned, IC mag, I feel like it used to be a great place to do stuff like that, and now it's you know, maybe not as much. You know, it's sort of an elitist kind of crowd where, you know, they don't want to hear anything besides, you know, what sort of their fan base, I guess, beats the drum to. And so, so I don't post anything there anymore and haven't for a long time. But, you know, anything
A
that's
lot of the
chronological like that, I feel like it's important uh, to have and to be a credible source of, you know, for somebody like myself who's just, you know, growing plants and as sort of an experiment, and to provide for myself and share information with others that, um, you know, it's important to show over time when you make mistakes. You know, I've showed, like, if you look at my second grow, I almost destroyed it with bug spray. Um, you know, but I leave all that stuff up there and leave all those videos in there because, you know, it's important, I feel like, for people starting out to be able to see that, you know, first of all, that can happen. You know, maybe you can watch me do it and not do it yourself. And second of all, just to know what it looks like. So if you see it, you know, if you see the same type of thing happen to your plants, you have something to compare it to. So I feel like a lot of growers, I'll immediately start ignoring some of their videos if they, you know, they don't, you know, finish a series, or they only post the beginning and the end. Um,
mhm.
you know, I just feel like it needs to be slightly more transparent than that.
That's what was cool about having old fart grows on the show. He does those super long format videos where he's just, you know, basically over his shoulder while he's working in the grow, and he just
Yeah.
shows you absolutely everything. If you got a question, you know, you want to see the exact pruning technique, you want to see like the angle that he bends over when he's trimming his shit or whatever, you can, you
Yeah,
know,
it's really cool.
yeah. So
I feel like you should just have like a live stream, you know, like 4 hours a day in the garden or something, you know, like,
right.
he's a cool little guy though. I really like that show a lot. We should have him back on. That was awesome.
He's a great dude. I was just hanging out with him a week or two ago here out at Eden. He lives not super far from here, so um, yeah, you might be able to might be doing more with him in the future, and we'll definitely get him back on the show because he's doing a lot of really awesome work with extractions and medicate, edible medications, that I think is definitely out ahead of the rest of the industry. So
Awesome. Yeah, I
and
loved
we'll
having him back on. He was a lot of fun. I like his format too, the way, it's a different approach than you see for, even myself. I usually shoot a couple minute update videos and try to do just a couple minutes every few days. And, he shoots those long extended periods. Like, I mean, there's no way I'm going to I have a great appreciation for it just because I know that there's no way that I would have the patience to film myself doing all of that stuff for that length of time and upload it and just so yeah, I appreciate the amount of work that he puts into it, and I think it comes out really cool. And clearly the people that that watch it have a great time. He gets a lot of comments, and he has a great time with it. So I really enjoy his channel. So check out Old Fart Grows if you haven't done it. If you haven't checked it out before. He was on one of our episodes before. I don't remember which one it was, but
yeah,
definitely
episode
check that
20
out.
something, I think. One of the lower 20s, I think it was. It's so cool that we've done the show this much. We have a really awesome guest lined up for next week. We have Gina Cavalera from what the hell is the name of their Green Acre Farms in Florida. And that'll be really cool. Gina is one of my favorite people in the industry. I did a chance to take her farm class, did a bunch of cool stuff with her, and I had a chance to spend a lot of time with her, especially when I worked at the aquaponics source. And she's one of the funner, cooler people in the industry as far as someone to just, be around, especially in a work environment where it's really fun and always cracking me up. So it'll be really fun to get her on the show. And then we have, after that, we have Damien. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his last name. Gentleman from, I'm sorry, Dave Pearson. That's it, Dave Pearson. After that, lined up for. He works out at Barbados, and it'll be really cool to get him on the show. And yeah, we have. I'm going to be looking to schedule a medicinal herb class at the end of April, hopefully here too. If anyone else is interested in that.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you do isn't it like 2 days, right?
Yep, it's a 2-day class, and the medicinal herb class is a little more complicated than the cannabis class. Well, I guess in terms of total knowledge, because you learn more planting methods and planting techniques, and the nutrients are covered a little bit differently because you have to account for some wonky stuff, and the germination stuff is covered a little bit differently because you have to account for plants that are harder to grow than cannabis. And so yeah, a slightly more advanced class, but it's a lot of fun.
That's cool. How long is the class? Did you say a couple hours?
Oh no, both classes are 2-day classes. The cannabis class is a little bit shorter, just because there's a little less material. The cannabis class is about a day and a half, and then the herb class is the full 2 days.
That's cool. So are you streaming like full 8 hours a day, or what's the schedule like? I'm just trying to be your devil's advocate here.
So basically you come and we give you a full tour of Ouroboros farms out in San Francisco, or I guess they're in Half Moon Bay now that I think about it. Out in Half Moon Bay, right near San Francisco. We go over all the different stuff that's going on there. They have a whole bunch of different herbs and the different planting methods that they have showing off there. And then we cover the filtration and stuff. And then we, we cover pruning and other things like that, hands-on, and cloning and all that stuff, taking cuttings. And then the teaching portion, we cover all the different nutrients, system design, how to manage your nutrient levels, how to adjust them, integrated pest management, all the different things, climate control, processing, all the different things that you would harvesting, all the different things you would need to know if you're going to try to do medicinal herbs or cannabis, depending on the class. So basically everything you would need if you'd never even taken an aquaponics class before. Now you'll understand more if you have a little bit of an aquaponics background, but you can come into it totally blind, and you'll come out feeling like you know what to do, or at least that you have the resources with you now to get that accomplished. Obviously, you're not going to take the class once and start your own company, but it would definitely give you enough to wrap your head around everything and really have a good understanding of it. We do a much more in-depth, or I do a much more in-depth section on nutrients than anyone else I've seen in the aquaponics industry for sure.
Can you repeat the class info for Kool-Aid? He asked in the chat.
As far as
just I think what the date was is probably what he's referring to.
Oh, sure.
Or where to go maybe to sign up for it.
Sure. So if you're looking to sign up for any of those classes, go to Ouroboros Farm, OUROBOROS, ouroborosfarms.com. And then that'll have a link to all the different classes. They have medicinal herb classes. I have my classes, medicinal herbs, and then the cannabis class. He also has an aquaponics 101. He has a aquaponics, basically aquaponics 102, kind of a second level class. And then he also has the farming course, which is like a 3 or 4 day intensive farm course. That is also really good if you're looking to do more commercial stuff.
Cool.
So definitely give him check him out over there. We'll be doing those classes about once a month this year, unless something radical changes.
Do you have any any way for people to participate online, or is it strictly in person?
We're working on that. We're trying to figure out the best way to facilitate that. It's something that we're hoping to do here in the future. I know especially once we get this other farm online here, once we get our greenhouse online here, it'll be much easier to facilitate. Or once I travel here to the place I can't talk about yet, we'll have a pretty ridiculous grow there that we can also do some companion in-person stuff aside from teaching in Ouroboros. We'll have some other niftier stuff available later on. But yeah, we'll have some before. We're hoping in the next month or two to work out the logistics on the online portion.
Cool. I was personally interested too because I have there's a guy here that has I'll give him a plug here actually. It's called the Ladybug Store. I think there's the Ladybug. Ladybug Indoor Gardens. That's what it's called, and it's in Phoenix, Oregon, here just south of Medford. And he carries beneficial insects, so ladybugs, various types of predator mites, and a few other things. He's got praying mantis eggs, all kinds of good stuff, and he'll ship anywhere too. So if you go to naturescure.com is his website. So he's been bugging me for a while now to do an aquaponics class because they have an aquaponics system there. It's like a model. And so he wants to have have a class there in person and then also broadcast it through maybe like a Google Hangouts group and have like 10 seats available. So hopefully trying to put together something like that pretty soon also. And one of the hangups that we'll have is that he can't really keep the plants there. So I may end up having to work my way around that. But at any rate, may see that coming down the pipe. And
been there.
So my rolling server rack may come in handy. Spoiler alert.
Nice rack there, Marty.
Nice rack. That's right.
Does anyone else in chat have any other questions? Kind of approaching our normal-ish end time. Did you have other topics or anything else you wanted to cover in the short term? I guess we could talk a little bit about the Mammoth P coming out with their new products. I haven't had a chance to really look at them.
I looked at it a little bit, and it sounds a lot the similar lines as the phosphorus stuff, and I would expect it to be high quality and what it says it is, and it'll probably be available in samples. If you keep an eye on their website, they take their sample page up and down, so sometimes it's not available. They only put it up when they have samples. So if you see a broken link, for instance, a lot of times people try to share it and it's only up for a certain amount of time and then goes away. So you kind of have to keep an eye on their website, but they will give out samples. And just going back to what I said before, is experiment with something. And a lot of these places will give you samples to get started, whether it's an aquaponics system or, I mentioned the probiotic wellness gardens. Those are great, easy to do sips, which are sub-irrigated planters, very easy to maintain, very easy to keep probiotic. Make some labs at home. We have lots of different resources for that kind of stuff. Check out the Facebook group, Aquaponic Cannabis Growers. Check out Steve's channel, Ponics, my channel, AP Meds. The Duke Grows show hosts a lot of our stuff. Fish Ganja Guy.
Yeah, I think
What am I forgetting?
we're gonna have Ganja Guy, unless I think we're gonna have him on the show a little bit more often. He's putting out a lot of content and is good in case one of us is busy or can't make it. It'll be a good kind of having a ringer to fill in for either one of us going forward. I think is a good thing. So I was trying to find more info on their website here about Mammoth K and Mammoth N, but I'm not finding much. I'm sure I'll find an article up on it. We'll talk about it next week. So
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll have to check it out some more too, but I think it'd be good. I mean, obviously some of the ones that like the Mammoth N, for instance, may not
that might not be good.
Be as beneficial. We usually have nitrifying bacteria sort of covered, or at least you should, but it might be good for starting up systems.
That's what I was thinking. It might be a great seeding product for new systems, just like you were saying.
Right. All right. So anybody have any other questions? I don't think so. Shout out to Kool-Aid from Eugene joining us. I always like guys who are active in chat. Or women who are active in chat. I don't want to assume anything.
I wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to everyone. I'm going to do a separate little video on this, but thanks to everyone who subscribed to my channel. I finally broke 1,000 subscribers here in the last 24 hours. I meant to do a little video. Maybe it was 48 hours ago, but just recently broke 1,000 subscribers on Potent Ponics channel. So I appreciate it. I'm going to be hopefully in the next 3 or so days. I might even get enough time to do it today. Depends. I got juggling a bunch of stuff right now. Start doing those individual nutrient videos and try to dispel a bunch of this. I'm going to do kind of like a Mythbusters, maybe not exactly like Mythbusters, but real in-depth videos on some of this stuff and get rid of to try and push out some of the bad information like we were talking about earlier. We'll do one on microbes. We'll do one on high nutrient systems versus low nutrient systems, and try to stomp out some of this silly information that's out there that's passed off as legitimate.
Sounds good, man.
Alrighty. Thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure you check out Marty's channel over at AP Meds. Mine's Potent Ponics. You can always email me at potentponics.com if you have a question or anything. Fire us off an email. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a good one. Hopefully I'll have those intro and outro finished before next time. We got a rough copy done already. We just got to tweak it a little. So
all right. Have a good one, guys.
Peace.